Is fasting recommended in Chinese medicine, and what do we think about it? And this is answering a subscriber's question. Hey everyone, hope you're doing great. Welcome back to Chinese Medicine Podcast, the place where you can come to have Chinese medicine easily explained and in a fun and easy way, and come on the journey to better health together. So I hope that you're enjoying the channel so far. I've got a little challenge that I'm going to do, and today's video is actually about fasting and digestion. So we're going to be talking about is fasting recommended in Chinese medicine, and what do we think about it? And this is answering a subscriber's question. Also wanted to make a little announcement about a competition that I'm running. I want to get to 10,000 subscribers this year.
Oh my God! Okay, it's happening.
I know that's a big ask, 10k. We've got about 5,500 at the time of making this video. So please stay tuned to the end, and I'm going to announce the competition. I'll put a link in the thing below if you want to skip to the end of that, and you can be in a prize draw to win $1,997 worth of prizes. Should have just made it $2,000, but that was too difficult, Marie. So, yeah, you can be in the prize draw, and you can find out more about that. You can also get a free chapter of a book that I'm writing called, the chapter's about yin and yang health, like how to use yin and yang for self-care, how to understand those concepts. So all the details are below. I'm going to get on with this question before I babble on about that too much. So this person has said, "Hi Marie, is it important to eat 3 meals a day? Or what do you think of fasting? Is it good for the body?" So this is a great question, and there's a lot of different answers to this in Chinese medicine. It's not just like a one size fits all. So it's not like yes, fasting's good or no, fasting's bad. The thing we have to define in this is what are you talking about fasting? What do we mean by fasting? So when I first studied Chinese medicine and people would say fasting, they really meant like withholding food for long periods of time, not this intermittent fasting thing, or fasting for 2 or 3 days even. It was more like fasting for a day, 2 days, like withholding food in a somewhat irregular way, like going on a fast. People go on fasts for religious reasons or spiritual reasons. They do fasting for, it's usually a spiritual kind of practice it is in a lot of Christianity kind of practices. And there's an associated sustainment of nourishment from your spiritual belief, just as much as it's about just that withholding of food, I think, in that case. So especially long periods, long fasting, like fasting can go up to 40 days in biblical fasts, right? And people these days don't tend to fast like that. So when they say, what do we think of fasting? It's going to be a different answer if you're thinking about intermittent fasting. So I'll tell you about how Chinese medicine sees our digestive system very briefly. And then what you need to do is make up your own mind about the type of fasting you're considering doing, whether that's appropriate for you, and what is that going to really do for you in a Chinese medicine way. And then you can decide, well, is that the right thing for my body? So we have to put our Chinese medicine hat on now to think about, what does Chinese medicine think about how we digest food and what's the best way to kind of go about that. And this is very topical because I'm about to start a course on the weekend called Better Gut Health with TCM. And in this course, I will teach you step by step the basic components of digestion. Like there's 3 lots of 3 hours in that course. And we will go through in detail how to understand your digestion in a much more detailed way, so that you'll be empowered to make your own decision about whether fasting is right for you, or not just fasting, but lots of other things, like what kind of diet you should be generally having. And also to think, if you have been fasting and then that's depleted you somewhat, how to come off that, and also to then go back and nourish your digestive system. That's important as well. So fasting by itself as a concept isn't necessarily bad in Chinese medicine. However, they don't really see a benefit to withholding food for long periods of time. So there's an idea of like your stomach likes full and empty, not grazing all day long. So there's a concept that it needs that full, but it also needs the empty. And what's crept into our culture over the many years, because of various things, right? One is fast food, availability of food. And not just fast food as in like I drive through the McDonald's and get food, at an instant, but like we have takeaway things, and then we have Uber Eats, and we have, and all these other Deliveroos and Takearoos, and whatever they're called, right? Home delivery foods. And then, availability of things, and you can get things at any time of day or night. And before that, we had things like refrigeration and storage of foods. So being able to whip up foods at an instant and very quickly means anyone can do that, and they don't have to necessarily have put a lot of thought and effort and even love into the food that they're doing. They can just get food. And so what has happened is over time we've become more and more lazy with our diet, with our habits. Like when we eat, people tend to live alone and singularly at a greater rate than they used to because of housing costs and things like that. And so, like all these things, I don't think this is what this person was expecting as an answer for this video, but all these things add up to, it's more and more easier to have bad diet habits around eating. So the old days of coming to the kitchen table and sitting around a table and eating a meal, having like the heat was provided for the meal by the cooking process, right? And so then you would either eat that meal then, or you'd have to have a cold meal. You wouldn't be able to heat it up in a microwave, for instance. When microwaves came in, it's revolutionized cooking and things like that, but it also meant that convenience aspect was just kind of there. Like you could think of a food and boom, it's kind of there. So there was a regularity to life just established by the fact that we didn't have those things to quickly heat up foods. It was very energy inefficient to heat up one meal at a time. So you'd be having the whole family's meals, and you'd either be like, well, this is our dinner time, breakfast, lunch and dinner times. Anyway, so I think as a society, we've moved so far away from that. And that's why intermittent fasting has become so popular, because it's almost, for some people, what they consider intermittent fasting is actually just what we should be doing anyway to be healthy. Like we shouldn't be snacking and eating all night long, and then, not that we snack in our nighttime in our sleep, but sort of, a lot of people have a meal, and look, I'm talking about myself included, right? Like, so I'll have a meal or something like that, and then you might sit down on the couch and watch TV, and then you might have something to eat while you're doing that, right? Like you might think, oh, I'll have some chocolate, or I'll have a bit of ice cream, or have something, a treat. And now I don't do that every night, but like, let's say you do that, and then next thing you know, or you come home and you think, oh, I won't have dinner now, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, or you have dinner at 9, and you're eating late. So sometimes you eat late at night, sometimes you eat early, and just that stuff happens. Now, our body likes that emptiness, and it needs the emptiness. So if that's what you mean by fasting, that can be highly beneficial. Now, what's happening from a perspective of your stomach being empty is it's repairing, right? Not your stomach's repairing, but your body's repairing. Your body's doing its healing, it's doing its repair. And that's not really strictly a Chinese medicine function. It's a well-known function in Western medicine, and they've got a lot more details about how your body's actually doing that. But in Chinese medicine, we think of it like when you lie down flat, blood returns to your organs, particularly your liver, and you're doing blood making. So you're tonifying blood and you're doing that. If your stomach is really full, it can cause a problem called stomach heat at nighttime. So what can happen is you can get reflux, you can get it pushing up, you can actually get like your stomach just physiologically, because it's so full, the little valve at the top can be pushing open, acidic juice and stuff like that can be coming up your esophagus, and then that can cause you to get problems with acid coming into your esophagus, which is the tube coming from your stomach upwards to your throat. And that's what they call acidic reflux. And then, this can lead to things like ulcers or, damage to those tissues, because they're not designed to have acidic juices sitting in there. So, you can avoid a lot of those problems by having this routine of the fasting. Now, I don't think, traditionally, Chinese medicine wouldn't advise people to go on fast for long periods of time, like days, like 2 or 3 days, certainly a week or more than that. And I think in those cases, there has to be some sustenance that's coming from somewhere else, not from just, like, you can't just go without the food. So either that person, I mean, they might be able to survive if they were in the bush or something, like the desert or somewhere, and they were overweight and their body's going to start to turn their fat into energy. And they can survive for a while like that. It certainly slows your metabolism down, fasting for long periods of time. Like, I'm talking about 21 days or more than that. So that might be a process that then you're damaging that wood element because it's not metabolism slowing down. There could be a case to say, well, that's okay in something like winter because you're supposed to be slowing things down. You're not supposed to be exercising. And as long as that person emerged from that fasting with a fair amount of exercise and, different things, there might be a way to mitigate against the downside of that. So I think for certainly, like, your body likes regularity in Chinese medicine. Likes full and empty, full and empty. So whatever you choose for your regularity, as long as you're not in a position of being so hungry that you're going to have to snack on things, which obviously isn't fasting anyway. Some people can do quite well on like a 1 meal a day diet, 2 meal a day diet, something like that. There's certainly some longevity books that I've got in Chinese medicine that talk about diets for elderly people to live more than 100 years or 100 healthy years. And they talk about eating very soupy broths and very small amounts of food. So as you get older, your body's needs are less, like your nutritional needs are less, and the likelihood of you gaining weight is more. So if you can have a habit where you're not eating as much food as you get older, you wouldn't want to not have an appetite at all. That's not good either. But just having 1 meal a day or having a very light foods. So this technically wouldn't be fasting, but having a clear soup or a bone broth, right? For instance, as a food. Now, some people can do this if you want to do intermittent fasting, or you're doing the fasting to say boost your metabolism on a keto diet and you have bone broth. I think there's some people that would say that that's a food you could have and you won't get out of ketosis, let's say. So a small amount of that, and because it's so fatty, it's kind of like you don't need very much. It's very dense, and so you kind of get that fullness kind of feeling, and that's a way of kind of continuing a fast or doing like maybe transitioning towards a fast where someone, like, they want to do a 12-hour fast and they wake up in the morning and they're just hungry, to transition before they just completely stop all the food for that 12-hour period. They could try doing a bone broth, and they wouldn't spike up their blood sugar from doing that usually. So now I'm not a nutritionist, so you'd have to check with your nutritionist if that's the reason you're doing the fasting. So there can be a benefit from the emptiness is what I'm saying. But I don't think Chinese medicine would say there's a long-term benefit in regularly fasting irregularly, right? So what I mean by that is, every 6 weeks you have 3 days where you have no food. That's not regularity. But having a 12-hour fast, and you keep that regular, and so you're basically eating within an 8-hour window of your day or something like that. That seems plausible. Like, that seems healthy. Yeah. Some people have a 16-hour fast time for a day, like, as in they don't eat after 5 p.m. or something until like 12 o'clock the next day or something. So that's one thing. Now, the people who follow TCM strictly would say, well, Marie, what about the organ clock and the time of your eating? So there are different theories. People in classical Chinese medicine tend to not agree that organ clock is the right clock. But there is something to be said that your stomach likes to be fed first thing in the morning, not as soon as you get up. if you were to live healthily, properly, you would wake up when the sun rises, and then you would be eating something about 7 a.m. So you'd get up, the sun would get up. So if it's summer, it might be 5 a.m., 5:30, something like that. Maybe, and in winter it'll be a bit later. And you'd go for a little walk, enjoy the sun, like greet the sun literally, like the sun, be around the sunrise, which is super healthy from a neurological perspective, having those early morning sun rays meeting your eyes. And going for walks and gazing out to the distance and that sort of stuff. So people might go for a walk or go and do yoga or something like that, then come back and then have a very light kind of breakfast, and then get the day started. Now, if you want to do the fasting kind of thing, you could just do the bone broth at that point, yeah. Or if you're on a keto diet, having something very small that's protein based won't kind of spike your blood sugar. But a common Chinese medicine breakfast would be the congee. And I've had a lot of thought about congee over the years, because when I first studied Chinese medicine and graduated, I used to tell everyone to have congee because I just used to trust everything Chinese medicine said and think, oh, congee's the best, right? The best. Which congee is rice and water. So it's like 7 times water to 1 times rice, and then maybe some other things are added in. For flavour, you could throw in sort of spring onions and like... you can cook it with meats, you could cook it with fruits. There's all kinds of permutations. Now, congee's good if you're not overweight, and let's say you're not trying to lose weight, and you are going to do a lot of exercise that day, let's say, because you're an active person working in a physical job. You probably need those carbs. You probably need that. And I think that like is ultimately how we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be sitting at a desk all day just talking as part of our work. I don't think we're supposed to do that as human beings. Right? We're supposed to like go and collect eggs and grow things in gardens and, you know, do physical labour, not hard labour all the time, but we're supposed to be doing that stuff. I don't think that we're not supposed to be doing that in any capacity. So if that was the case, then you'd need that energy, and that would give you a sustenance, and so you'd be burning some of that off. But I think in the modern day, if you're not going to be doing much exercise, not much physical work, it may be a high carby sort of thing like a congee isn't going to be providing you with that kind of energy, and you certainly are more likely to get this blood sugar spiking down situation. Now, it's low glycemic index, rice, but it's still not as good as a protein breakfast. So if you sort of do your best work in the morning, or you're hoping to get your best work in the morning done, and that's very highly thought based or computer based, you're sitting down, you're probably better off doing the fasting until you finish that little block of work, and then eating something after that. So the point of this video is to say your stomach likes regularity, like as in your spleen and stomach, your digestive system. It likes regular meals. I think you should always consult your own physician or your own practitioner about whether you're going to engage in fasting, because for some people it's not appropriate. You know, like your nutritional needs might not be met if you're pregnant, if you're planning to get pregnant. There's all kinds of variabilities, like if you're sick with certain illnesses, right? Now, fasting can also be used to treat certain illnesses. It's used as a way to starve the body of, one way to think about it in a Chinese medicine way is, while it's not digesting food, you're not bogging it down with doing that, it's then able to do the repair and the healing. I would think you would be better, you could get that similar effect. I'm not sure if you could get the same exact effect, but you could get a very similar effect with very light, clear, bland meals, which follows with what we call the Qingdan diet. So this would be the bone broth, right? And the clear broth, clear broth kind of soups. It doesn't have to be just a bone broth. Although what we modernly call bone broth is pretty much those kind of, you know, the clear, bland kind of soup. Chicken broth, we just don't get into soups as much as people used to get into them as much. So not a really thick sort of like a chowder, but just a clear, bland kind of soup diet. Not for the whole diet, but just for those times. For that season where you're wanting to give your body that time to repair, there is evidence to suggest in Chinese medicine that that is a strategy to take the pressure off of your stomach and your spleen of digesting food. And I think that's what people are tapping into with the fasting. So, sometimes you read books and you think fasting's you see it cautioned against in some textbooks in Chinese medicine. So the other book that I like is called Healing with Whole Foods by Paul Pitchford. And in that book, he gives 3 different types of fasts for different reasons. And they're things like fasting from certain foods rather than fasting from all food, right? So as in fasting from sugar or fasting from, so it's like a elimination diet. But he also gives like a 3-day, almost like a detox, but a fasting thing where you do any vegetables, and if you really like basically steamed vegetables only, like that's all you have for 3 days, and then you slowly, gradually add in your other foods after that. And that's a kind of a way of suspending the pressure on your digestive system for a few days, like as a reset, and also as a way to then introduce other foods in to see what's causing the problem. So fasting could be used as a mechanism for that. Like if you eat 10 or 20 different things a day and you're not sure what's causing the pain or the bloating or the inflammation or something like that, you might just have to stop everything and then work out those 20 things and then have, 10 of them or 2. And then, okay, I'm okay this day. The next day I'll have 3 things. Okay, I was okay with those things. 4 things. Oh, it's the milk. I know it's that. I better not have that anymore, something like that. So, yeah, hopefully that's a bit of useful and helpful information. I'd love you to come on the challenge with me to get the 10,000 subscribers. So you can do that by a few ways. You can subscribe to the channel and support the channel. So you click the little button there that says subscribe and the notification bell next to it, and you'll get notified when I make a new video. And so if you then go to the link that says free book chapter, you'll get a copy of my new book that I'm writing, a copy of the free chapter, and you'll also join into my new newsletter. And you'll get updates when I do live streams and things like that. I won't bamboozle you with too many crazy emails or anything. I might send you some info about the new courses that I'm starting up as time goes on. And then you'll be in the draw. When we reach the 10,000 subscribers, I'm going to draw the draw, and I'll be giving away 10 of my 3-week courses. And that'll be an on-demand course, so you'll be able to do it in your own time, and that's valued at $197 each course, so I'm giving away 10 of those, and I think that's pretty generous and pretty cool. So if you'd like to study something with me and you think, oh, I'd love to win a course, then get in amongst it and get your friends to subscribe, and we'll get up to the 10K in no time. So I want to reach 10K this year, 2022. We've got 6 months to do it, or a little bit more than that. So yeah, get subscribing, get clicking. And thank you so much for your questions. If you have a question, you can ask it below and I'll do my best to answer it. And thank you so much for supporting the channel, and thanks for your interest in Chinese medicine, and really, you're interested in helping yourself. As you do that, you're helping other people, and we help make the world a better place. So have a great week. I'll see you again soon on another video.